I'm Felicia. I am the operations manager for Solve. I'm also the PA to Craig. Going to give you a little insight to the day in life of Solve. We're going to do a diary check with Craig. I'm going to look at our priority contracts and just go from there, really. I think the challenge is capacity. I think just figuring out what is our priorities, what sort of fits with what we do at Solve, and making sure that we just stay true to ourselves. And you know, there's a lot of opportunities going on, but I think the biggest challenge is just sort of making sure we stay in our lane and do what we do really well. I think the best part is just that we have so much sort of opportunity. We're engaged with a lot of different organisations, so where we're engaged with I guess what we'd class as the typical county councils and youth services. We also get the privilege of working with the not so obvious like the Premier League, which gives a different sort of flavour to our day. Morning.
Hi, we're here.
Yep.
So what is the plan for the day?
Plan is to do a diary check. We're just going to give a once over whatever we consider as priority this month. Priority, we'll run through that in a minute once you get settled.
I guess one of the challenges I reckon that we have is probably similar. I don't know if Philly probably says the same thing, but around capacity. I can't be in a million places at once, and I think having someone like Philly, that's kind of the captain of the ship of the organisation, I think helps. You know, most people know my organisation skills are terrible at times, because I have conversations. My issue is I have conversations with people. I have all of these meeting ideas, but then I need to make sure that I check in with Philly. If I don't check in with Philly, everything goes left. So I've got loads of friends that I don't know, therapists that also are trainers, consultants, whatever, and I'll be on a phone call conversation and be like, yeah, I'll meet you Thursday at 7 o'clock. And then I'll say to Philly like, 7 o'clock comes. And Philly's like, no, why are you telling people that you got meetings at 7 o'clock if then the reality is that you're supposed to be somewhere else? So the biggest challenge for me is I wear a number of hats, which in a second, I think after we do a diary check, we can probably talk about some of the things that we're doing. But I think what I love about Solve is that we are organic. We move as a family. One thing I like is, I know it's quite weird, but every time that we have a difficult issue or problem, as challenging as it might be, we might fall out for 10 minutes or so, we always come back together, and I think that's what I like about it, and that's how families are. And I wouldn't have it any other way. And I think as a director, as a founder, I guess my thing has always been about transparency, making people have the autonomy to kind of do the things that they want to do. But then also I want to be the type of boss that everyone's like, you know what, you don't feel like we're working. You know, we feel like we're part of a team, a family, and everybody has kind of the freedom to do things within essential parameters, I guess. But today is going to be a busy day. I got so many things doing. But yeah, diary check, let's get to it.
So the first, we've got 10 to 12.
With who?
Leicester VRN.
Have I got to drive there? Or can I do this one on Zoom?
This one's online.
Oh, brilliant.
This is your gangs and street violence in urban environments.
Yeah.
Remember that you'll be delivering this twice. So you're running each session twice.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah,
Yeah. So it's how many sessions are in total?
12.
Okay, so yeah, that makes
So
sense.
you'll be running 6 sessions, but they'll be duplicated.
And then how many people are going to be in each room?
Max is 25.
Okay, cool.
We're
Yeah, that's
only
fine.
holding it at max for 25.
I've got a few things that need to be put in. Week commencing, I think it's the 7th, family funeral.
Yeah.
So on the Wednesday I can't. You need to change things around if you're able to.
Yeah.
That
okay.
week, how much travelling am I doing that week? Is it train? Is it car?
Yeah. So you're supposed to be in Brighton the Monday to Tuesday.
And then
And then
so
Wednesday.
Yeah.
If it's Wednesday, you're gonna have to make sure that you get
Yeah, that's
back
fine.
within good time.
Would you be able to book a hotel for that?
Yeah.
So these are priority contracts. So I've got Norfolk County Council's Children's Services, and then I've got Leicestershire or Leicester Violent Reduction Network or Unit. I've then got Bury Council. Then we've also got the Children's Society. We've got Bristol Council. Have I missed any? Premier League? Also, you got the Premier League. Can't forget the Premier League.
Can't forget the Premier League because that's quite
And
a
then the
heavy
Prem-
one.
Now, the Premier League is probably one of the interesting ones for me, because I'm not a football fan. But working with Chelsea Football Club has opened up so many doors for us. I remember going to Chelsea for the first time and going to the stadium, and they really kind of welcomed us with open arms. And that very much started around addressing issues within football around racism. You remember all of the stuff that's been going on with football and racism in the sport. And this is kind of a long-going conversation, but they also took a bit of a radical approach and used us to ultimately solve their problem. That's why we did. And then that kind of then immersed into doing stuff with the academies, all the stuff with the football players and then the coaches. And then it went into some of the issues that a lot of the teams across the Premier League are facing. I guess the biggest issue around, players that I guess are the next hot, next best thing, and then something happens where, I don't know, they get caught up in a situation. Watching the news recently, loads of players around misogyny, a lot of issues around allegations of rape, sexual harm and violence. So it's not just football and getting the football teams across the Premier League to kind of recognise that there are so many challenges for those players, even though they may be in a privileged position. How do we address that privilege? How do we respond to that particular privilege? And getting those players to kind of understand that. I guess in a nutshell, you might be the golden ticket, you might be the lottery ticket for your families, but that doesn't mean though that you should relinquish common sense. It doesn't mean that you should abuse power. And it doesn't mean that you also should be behaving against the law, especially when we're talking about violence, when we're talking about sexual harm and abuse as it relates to that. So those are the big contracts that we do, and as you can see, we're in so many different parts of the country. I believe that we are going to be traveling now that things are opening up to potentially different countries. I just want to get back to the Caribbean, I want to get back to America, I want to get back to different parts of Europe. And I guess doing what I do best, or what we do best, Solve. You heard me talk about organisation, and I say Philly is the glue. She is the second brain of Solve. With all of the things that people see me doing and they're happy, I just don't think that if I didn't have it, everybody needs a Philly in their organisation. Everyone needs a Philly, and I think to all of, I guess, my colleagues that watch these things, I always say how important it is to have individuals that are very good at systems, processes, contracts, timings. Because as I said, I'm one person, I can't be everywhere at once, and we're doing so many different things. And being able to execute and do the best that people are buying into our services for, I need to be on my A game. And it's like little things like making sure that the day before I'm somewhere, that I spend in a hotel. And what I mean by that is there was times before, you probably remember, where we were going on the day
Yeah.
And it's a little bit of a fluster, you know, you're leaving at 5 a.m. on the train, get somewhere for 8:30 to get somewhere there for 9:30, you're sorting out tech, and then there's issues, and then you had time to just kind of chill for a moment. And I think that having, I guess, the systems in place to be able to do those things, sleep, get your rest, so you're always on point. And I think that despite how busy we are, I think we've got it right.
Yeah.
In terms of all of the other things that we're doing. So when we talk about peeling back the onion, I think it's really important that if your interventions do not start to look at and address the issues of fear, guilt, shame, hurt, trauma, respect, ego, identity, we will forever be in this situation having the same conversations about the whys, the same conversations about how do we respond, and still spending sporadically in terms of our budgets trying to resolve the issue without looking at the underlying problems and factors that cause and create the environment for children and young people to behave in the way that they do. And that's why I always like to conclude with this idea of keep planting seeds. Many of you in the room are well rehearsed, well researched, have so much wealth of knowledge and experience. Keep planting seeds, because you don't know when those seeds are going to bear fruit. And just like those days where, you know, you might be walking around your supermarkets and you may have a young person that rolls up on you and says, "Hey you, don't you remember me, Craig?" And I'm always sitting there like, who the hell are you? And I always say, you remember back in the day where you was the manager of that youth centre and we were the young people, and it starts to jog your memory and you remember the things that you were teaching them at a time where they may have been antisocial, they may have been, you know, causing problems, and then now they're telling you about the amazing stuff that they're doing. So sometimes it may be difficult as workers, as practitioners, that when you're in the moment and you want change, but always remember why you've got into this work. Always remember that your seeds, the wealth of knowledge, is planted in the minds and the hearts of our young people. So thank you all for attending today's session. These are my contact details. Continues to be beacons of life for our children, our young people, our wider community and their families. And hopefully I will see you all face to face very soon. Peace. So that is one of our sessions, kind of like what we would do on a normal day. Tired. We've still got some other stuff that we need to do. And then just to kind of give you an idea, you heard me say that I wear a number of hats. So Solve, I guess, as an entity, has a number of kind of sister organizations. One of them being Solve Housing. So we have a company that has a series of supported accommodation for care leavers as well as children's homes. And we are about to open up our first children's home in Birmingham for the Birmingham people, for the community of Birmingham, but more importantly, children and young people that have been exploited in a range of ways. And we will open the door for children and young people nationally. I'm very proud, I'm very excited about this particular venture. And I think that just kind of links to how I am as a person. I want to solve society's problems. We always have conversations about the problems, but very few of us actually think about what are the solutions. And I just kind of felt that working with children that are at risk, children and young people that are vulnerable, children and young people that for whatever reason have to be removed from their homes, I want to provide a scenario and a situation where they're able to kind of do that. So that with many hats, that kind of explains a little bit what I do. So not only am I a director of an organization around consultancy, around training, delivering workshops for children and young people, we're also about how do we develop structures within the community. So I'm also involved in property and also involved in some of the ventures that kind of keeps me busy. So that's why I'm working 6 days a week. So let's get up. I'm gonna get ready, have a quick shower, get ready, and then we'll head over to Solve Housing. Bring Rob is an official member of the team. Absolutely. And has been part of my life for a very, very long time. And we're here, Rob just never gets a little big up. So here's Rob, everyone. One of the best video, what do you call this, a videographer, director of... Geniuses. Why am I poking at the side here? but that's Rob anyway, he's the main guy.
This space, this room is sort of where we it's where all the project stuff sort of happens. This is, I use this space quite a lot. We have one-to-ones here. This is where our temporary youth workers will come and use this space to plan. Currently, we are working with Wolverhampton University and Birmingham City University placement students with something called the Arts Award, where we're going to be working in schools and creating some leadership programs. It's several schools in Birmingham, Coventry area. And yeah, so this is sort of where we use, as a placement student, I'm responsible for supervisions, one-to-ones. I'm also JNC qualified. So that means that I've taken a bit of a lead with that.
I think it's an important conversation because I think in this current climate, you know, it's really difficult. There's a lot of people that are very, knowledgeable. There are a lot of people that are stressed out. There are a lot of people that, dealing with their mental health. People have been grieving over the last, couple of years and had to do it in isolation. And I think that, in this particular space, you have to really be kind of innovative and do something different. And that's part of the reason why I've always said in my work, create a lane. And I say this to everybody that's either, a person that's starting their own business, they're starting their own company, especially as it relates to community. What is everybody doing? The environment is oftentimes saturated with everybody wanting to do the same thing. But what do you provide that's different? And I think that where Solve is concerned, in terms of, my PhD studies, that's very unique in terms of Birmingham and the West Midlands, but also having that experience of, working with some of the most difficult within our city. And then also having now the opportunity to not just have the national experience, but also work in the Caribbean, working in America, working in different parts of Europe, and utilizing that in order to develop that one skill that makes you step out of your lane. And I think I'm just in a place now where, what else? So that's why, social care, housing, children's homes, is kind of the new passion and a new venture. But there's a deeper conversation about this as well, and it's two-part. Number one, it's about legacy. And, for those know that my family are a very, very known family in the Birmingham community, and it's continuing that legacy of my grandparents. But I think secondly, it's also about bringing people in and giving people opportunity. Everybody wants to bring in, everybody wants an opportunity, but it's also about enabling people to have the opportunity to actually have the portfolio to do the work. So that's kind of why I do the things that I do. That's my why, my passions, remembering all the young people that I've lost, I've had to bury, and, those families that are having to go through it, and knowing that, you get up out of your bed every morning giving praise and thanks to the Most High, but then also just being able to fulfill your purpose. Lunchtime to make sure we get them something. So just to give you a little bit of context, what's happening today is first aid. So the staff are being trained off first aid with one of our facilitators around obviously any issue that might happen to make sure that we could potentially. So you can see we're going through. This is one of our staff. So these are kind of some of the rooms that we have for our young people, children, when they finally come into our home. So this is going to be our education room, also one-to-one room. So if they want to use computers, we're going to have a therapist. You may remember the work that we do with Belgrave Mind. So he'll be one of the therapists that we're working with, supporting our kind of therapeutic interventions engaging with young people. But there's another floor, so come on. Yeah, this one here. So this is going to be our PlayStation room. Young people can play their games and their Xboxes and that type of stuff going on in there. 4-bed, There will be 2 staff rooms, one for sleep-ins. The other room will be for our kind of day-to-day admin and day-to-day tasks and activities. So really excited about what's about to happen next. Within the next 24 hours, this house will be a home ready. That's why we're just so busy this weekend, making sure that our staff are trained, making sure all the little tiny little bits of, electrics and stuff like that are done. But as again, I'm happy that this is a hub, a space where children and young people can be housed, homed. But I think more importantly, giving back to the community, giving back to members of our community that have done extremely good works, those that are on the path of establishing amazing careers. And if Solve as an entity can help people reach their goals, whether that's within youth work, whether that's in community work, or having any kind of experience being able to do this type of stuff, then that's what it is, man. So, day in the life.